There's another concept shared by the very different metaphysical theories of Spinoza and Leibniz that you ought to take note of. This is the Latin term conatus, often untranslated in your texts. Conatus means something like urge, endeavor, striving. It's an inherent force internal to things that pushes them forward, the source of desire and appetite. That urge, that force that all animals experience as the drive for self-preservation, that force that's behind the fight or flight response that is experienced when you're facing a threat. This is one aspect of what's called conatus. So that's a way to make it something tangible, something that you can relate to your own experience and sensations. But it's not simply that. It's not simply a drive for self-preservation. It's really a kind of a drive for self-actualization that all things have within them, all individual things, the things we describe as individual limited things in this world have within them, both for Spinoza and for Leibniz. So for Leibniz, these individual substances, which he calls monads, all are driven by this force of the conatus. In Spinoza too, although he wouldn't recognize anything like Leibniz's monads, all individual entities are driven by the same sort of a force. And for Spinoza, this relates closely as well to his notion of adequate and inadequate ideas. Every being seeks to do the things and act in such a way that it enhances its own being. And the way to do this, the way to effectively do this, we know that people don't always in fact do this. There is a lot of self-destructive behavior that we find human beings engaged in. But the source of this is whether our ideas ultimately are adequate or inadequate. If we understand how things are, then indeed we do act in our own interest. If we don't, that's when we act in a self-destructive way. So behind the force of will, right, this will which is not free but is determined by this force, the force that's behind that will is this conatus. So even though only God, for Spinoza, is truly autonomous, there is a kind of human autonomy, limited autonomy as well. Acting in our own interests, acting in beneficial ways, which requires that we understand how things really are. In Leibniz, we're going to see the same thing, although he has a very different theory about an explanation of the structure of the entire universe. And we're going to take a further look at Leibniz next time.